Sure.
Hello? Yes. Very good. We're about to say that this is an audio check. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. No. The weekend is over. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well done. Not because of the lighting in this room. It's just not being a continuation of the relaxation of the weekend. We are here to work, and we shall get it done. Yes? Very good. Now, good morning, all, and welcome to the Sub-Regional Dialogue on National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans, and the workshop on Target 3 of the Global Biodiversity Framework for the Caribbean countries. My name is Joseph Cox, and I'm Assistant Secretary General for Economic Integration, Innovation, and Development at the Caribbean Secretariat. And it is indeed my distinct pleasure to be guiding these proceedings at this opening ceremony this bright morning. Now, this is of particular significance to us as it represents our first collaboration with the Convention of Biological Diversity and, of course, the Caribbean Secretariat. And we do hope that this is the start of a long-standing era of collaboration and effective partnership. Now, over the next as I said, on Target 3 of the Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Now, without that, with any further, ladies and gentlemen, we have a packed program, we have a limited amount of time, and therefore I will use this opportunity to basically introduce you to our first speaker who will offer words of welcome, or virtually. And that is coming from Dr. David Cooper, who is the Acting Executive Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity.
Dialogue on national biodiversity strategies and action plans for the Caribbean countries. This is the fifth in a series of such dialogues to be organised by the Secretariat in collaboration with partners. I'd like to thank the Secretariat of the Caribbean Community, the Government of Guyana, and FAO for their support to this dialogue, and all the other partners, including colleagues from the EU delegation and UNDP. As you know, in December 2022, the world community came together and adopted the historic Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, also known as the Biodiversity Plan. The Biodiversity Plan sets out an ambitious agenda towards the vision of living in harmony with nature. Its 4 goals aim to protect and restore nature, to prosper with nature, to share benefits fairly, and to invest and collaborate for nature. It also includes 23 action targets, which provide a roadmap for achieving those goals. These include, among others, targets to protect and conserve 30% of land, waters, and seas, to restore 30% of degraded ecosystems, and to mobilize $30 billion per year from developed to developing countries to support their biodiversity actions, all by 2030. The clock is ticking. It also includes targets for the sustainable use of wildlife and for sustainable and biodiverse cities, farms, and landscapes. It requires large businesses and financial institutions to publicly disclose their risks, dependencies, and impacts related to biodiversity, and to progressively reduce negative impacts. It aims to build capacity and raise the necessary financial resources from all sources. The Biodiversity Plan is based on a whole of government and a whole of society approach. It aims to ensure the protection of human rights, the rights and interests of Indigenous peoples and local communities, women and youth. The level and scope of ambition within the Biodiversity Plan is unprecedented. Now we must move this ambitious plan from agreement to action. To this end, there is an urgent need to translate these ambitions into actions at all levels. We need to update or revise national biodiversity strategies and action plans, NBSAPS, in alignment with the biodiversity plan. We need to set or revise national targets with the level of ambition matching those of the global goals and targets so that national ambition will accelerate global ambition. We need to develop strategies and plans to help implement the NBSAPS, such as capacity development plans and biodiversity financing plans. These are all critical means of implementation, and once NBSAPS are updated, they need to be adopted as policy or legal instruments and integrated into broader strategies or plans to ensure mainstreaming. It will also be important to develop a monitoring system for the NBSAPS to enhance monitoring, reporting and reviewing of implementation. We need to look at how the new biodiversity plan can contribute to efforts by countries to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and in turn, how progress towards the SDGs can enable action on biodiversity. As well, we need to be exploring how we can enhance synergies with biodiversity-related conventions, the other Rio conventions, and other multilateral environmental agreements, including the Chemicals Conventions. Colleagues, these dialogues have been organised by the Secretariat with the support of partners to help you to make all of this happen. The dialogue provides an opportunity for countries involved to share their experiences and good practices in updating and revising NBSAPS and to address common challenges faced. Following the NBSAP dialogue, there will be a workshop on Target 3 of the Biodiversity Plan. This workshop will bring together stakeholders working on protected and conserved areas to engage in meaningful discussions on how to achieve this target within the region. It will be an opportunity to look beyond the figure of 30% of areas, to address the other dimensions of the target, including the need for this area to be representative, to include the areas of greatest importance to biodiversity and ecosystem services, and to ensure that protected and conserved areas are well managed, with the full and effective participation of Indigenous peoples and local communities respecting their rights. This focus will be essential if we are to achieve the goals of the biodiversity plan. This workshop will serve as a platform to offer technical support for the development and implementation of Target 3, looking at how best to align collective efforts with the global and national targets. Colleagues, before concluding, I would like to reiterate the request from the Conference of the Parties in Montreal to set national targets and update NBSAPS in time to submit them for COP16 in 2024 in Cali, Colombia. In this regard, I encourage you to use the online reporting tool launched during SAPS 25 last October to submit your national targets and updated NBSAPS. COP16 will need this information to assess contributions towards the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and to ensure that national ambition will add up to global ambition. The Secretariat and its partners will be here to support your efforts as much as possible. We will only achieve the goals and targets of the Biodiversity Plan if we all work together. Thank you so much, and I wish you a productive and successful dialogue.
Thank you very much to Dr. Cooper for his welcome. And now I move quickly on to Mr. Noto, who is the UNDP resident representative, the United Nations Resident Coordinator. Please, open.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. Honorable Minister of Natural Resources of the Government of Guyana, Mr. Vikram Barat, Honorable Carla Bonnet, Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, Mr. Joseph Cox, Assistant Secretary General CARICOM for Economic Integration and Development, Mr. Ken Rashan, Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency of Guyana, all the different representatives from the Caribbean countries that are participating at in this sub-regional dialogue on national biodiversity strategies and action plans, my colleagues, David Cooper, Secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity, and Ms. Renata Clark, Regional Coordination of the Caribbean for the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organizations of the United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, it is really an honor to speak to you in my double character of UNDP representative for Guyana and as United Nations President Coordinator for the interim in these few days. In this significant occasion of the regional dialogue on national biodiversity strategies and action plan for the Caribbean countries to be developed in the coming days here in Guyana. The UN definitely and UNDP places a high priority to support the Caribbean in the efforts to achieve sustainable development and the protection of the natural resources in the region. And this is an excellent opportunity to move forward the agenda for the protection and sustainable use of natural resources, in particular regarding how to plan and advance policies and mechanisms to protect diversity, the biodiversity, and the different dimensions of sustainable development. For the Caribbean, as you are all very aware, it's a region, the Caribbean is a region heavily reliant on its natural resources for the social and economic advancement of the citizens. And using and managing natural resources sustainably is essential to the Caribbean and to the world, and to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. The UN system advocates a common approach to biodiversity and is supporting through different agencies and programs the effort of the countries to advance that agenda. This approach mainstreams biodiversity and nature-based solutions through collective action. The common approach recognizes the urgent and interrelated consequences of environmental degradation, including the biodiversity and habitat loss, climate change, air, land, and water pollution, illegal exploitation, increasing disaster risk, and the rise of zoonotic diseases. It also demonstrates the need of reimagining the human relationship to nature as a symbiotic one. The common approach to biodiversity is structured to achieve the 2050 vision for biodiversity, where focus on the conservation, restoration, and sustainable use of maintaining ecosystem, sustaining a healthy planet, and delivering benefits essentially for all people. This vision identifies three main objectives. First, the UN system is tasked to advance human rights, peaceful societies, and planetary stability. Second, green and inclusive economic recovery. And third, good governance in institutions, accountability, and justice. Under this common approach, the UN system delivers global advocacy and normative frameworks, regional collaboration, like in this particular case, and national support to national implementation. Definitely among the many elements to sustain biodiversity, forests and rainforests are essential to the health of the planet, its people, biodiversity, and water and food security. And definitely forests are an integral climate solution, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation remains a critical element of international climate commitments and national climate strategies. The Caribbean has played and is continuing to play a leading role in this area. And I would like to acknowledge the leading role of Guyana through the low carbon development strategy and how it's joining efforts to other Caribbean nations with the support definitely of CARICOM to protect and sustainable benefit from natural resources. Consequently, in light of the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, UN is collaborating with nations to update their national biodiversity strategies and action plans. Based on a common goal of coexisting peacefully with nature, this is a great opportunity to place natural capital at the center of the decision-making process and harness the potential of the significant transformative change needed to accomplish the Sustainable Development Goals. To accomplish this challenging goal, as I say, the EU system is actively supporting many agencies. Some will be particularly highlighted here: UNDP in the country, in the region, FAO, UNEP, and many others. And we would like also to emphasize the role of national governments and national actors. And in these areas where local communities and indigenous people not only lead, but also play a fundamental role in the effort for maintaining biodiversity. So let me just take this opportunity to wish everyone a very productive working sessions and reiterate our support to assist the efforts of the countries to really set ambitious but reachable goals for updating their national strategies and plan for biodiversity, and at the same time to increase the efforts for an effective implementation. So the UN, UNDP, and all our UN agencies are here to help and achieve this very essential and strategic goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those remarks. Now we're moving on to remarks by Dr. Renata Clark, who is the Sub-Regional Coordinator for the Caribbean for the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Dr. Clark will be joining us virtually, and after her presentation, we'll also be entreating you to watch a video entitled The Biodiversity Plan. So over to you, Dr. Clark.
Excellencies, honorable delegates, distinguished officials from the secretariats of the CBD and CARICOM, colleagues from sister UN agencies, representatives of civil society, non-governmental organizations, and international organizations, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to welcome you today as we embark on an important dialogue to share experiences and insights on the revision and updating of the national biodiversity strategies and action plans in alignment with the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Today, the Earth faces a triple planetary crisis: climate disruption, nature and biodiversity loss, and pollution and waste. Agri-food systems are already exceeding sustainability limits, undermining their own natural resource base. To overcome this crisis, we must transform these systems to be more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. Central to this transformation are healthy ecosystems and ecosystem services, such as soil formation and nutrient uptake, pollination, suppression of pests and diseases, just to mention a few. New knowledge and innovation can play a crucial role in preserving and monitoring biodiversity and promoting sustainable management of ecosystems. But it is not only about what's new. Traditional knowledge of local food systems in the Caribbean can be a game changer for sustainability and resilience. Traditional governance systems for biodiversity management contribute to achieving high levels of food self-sufficiency, resource efficiency, enhanced biodiversity, and in situ conservation of genetic resources for food and agriculture. We need to protect and learn from these systems while seeking opportunities for positive change through innovation. The transformation of agri-food systems requires a collaborative approach from all stakeholders. Today's broad participation in the sub-regional policy dialogue demonstrates this multi-stakeholder approach in action. I am especially delighted and grateful for the involvement of representatives from the agricultural sectors. In the Caribbean, FAO has been working with its members and regional partners to build institutional and technical capacity for the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity across agricultural sectors through a portfolio of normative and field programs. In relation to targets 4 and 7 of the Global Biodiversity Framework, respectively, FAO's Sub-Regional Office for the Caribbean is stepping up efforts to strengthen and harmonize the sustainable management of plant genetic resources in agriculture. We are also promoting the upscaling of successful farmer field school trainings to reduce the use and thereby the risks of agrochemicals in crop production. FAO has also undertaken a review of the 6th national reports for the 6 OECS member countries to identify case studies, successes, good practices, and analyze possible gaps. This review will form the basis of guidance to countries to facilitate their meeting the Global Biodiversity Framework targets that are of most relevance to biodiversity for food and agriculture. This year, FAO intends to step up support to the revision of NBSAPS in the Caribbean. We count on your presence here this week to ensure that our efforts are effectively complementing those of other agencies. I would like to take this opportunity to also inform the country delegates and other participants about the recent launch of the FAO Biodiversity Knowledge Hub. The hub gathers existing knowledge and resources on biodiversity in the agricultural sectors to enhance countries' knowledge and capacity to implement the Global Biodiversity Framework. To conclude, I would like to thank our colleagues from the CARICOM and CBD Secretariats for organizing this event, the Government of Guyana for hosting us in this beautiful setting, and the European Union for enabling the participation of the agricultural sectors through the ACP-MEA's program. Above all, a heartfelt thanks to you, the country delegates, for your commitment to this important cause. I am confident that this dialogue will provide valuable insights and facilitate collaboration to ensure that the unique biodiversity of this part of the world is restored and protected. I wish you all a fruitful and very successful dialogue. Thank you.
One in corners never with the sign, but we are supposed to be
In December 2022, the world came together in Montreal, Canada, and agreed on a global plan that will transform our relationship with nature. The Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework sets the world on a path to halt biodiversity loss and to build a future of life in harmony with nature. It has 4 goals to be achieved by 2050: to protect and restore nature, to prosper with nature, to share benefits fairly, and to invest and collaborate for nature. And it includes 23 action targets to be realized by the year 2030. In 2023, the world moved from agreement to action on this plan. The Treaty on the Conservation and Sustainable Use of Marine Biodiversity beyond areas of national jurisdiction was adopted. The Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosures released recommendations and guidance on nature-related risk management. The Global Biodiversity Framework Fund was adopted unanimously. Progress was made on a multilateral mechanism for the sharing of benefits from the use of digital sequence information on genetic resources. The NBSAP Accelerator Partnership, a valuable tool to implement the framework at national level, was launched. In 2024 and beyond, the world will continue to take actions to implement the biodiversity plan.
All right, well, there you have it. A little shorter than I thought it would be, to be honest. But okay. Having seen that now, we'll continue with our speakers list. And we now invite Dr. Carla Barnett, who is the Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, to share her thoughts with us. SG?
Good morning, everyone. All protocols having been observed, let me acknowledge Minister Vikram Bharat. Thank you very much, sir, and the members of the head table, representatives of Caribbean governments, of regional and international organizations, Assistant Secretary General Cox, and the staff of our CARICOM Secretariat. Special invitees, distinguished delegates, I am pleased to welcome you to Georgetown, Guyana, which is the home of the CARICOM Secretariat, and specifically to this important dialogue on the Global Biodiversity Framework. The 2022 UN Biodiversity Conference in Montreal underscored that biodiversity is the foundation of the global economy. It is estimated that more than half of global economic output is dependent on the healthy functioning of global biodiversity systems. In our Caribbean region, the economic, social, and environmental characteristics of our countries make us particularly dependent on healthy ecosystems. CARICOM member states are richly blessed with natural and environmental resources. However, we remain particularly vulnerable to biodiversity loss, pollution, and climate change. Although CARICOM countries are not major emitters, we bear the inordinate burden of the impact of the emissions of others. Historically, deforestation, land degradation, and air and water pollution put the region's rich biodiversity, including its endemic flora and fauna, at risk. As a small island and low-lying coastal developing states, we are constantly reminded of the challenges to our sustainable development. Because the solutions to many of our challenges do not lie only in our hands, we remain engaged with our international partners, discussing, negotiating, and advocating for global changes that are critical to the survival of all on this planet. We do this in the context of the UNFCCC negotiations as part of the Alliance of Small Island States, as well as in the international biodiversity discussions. We are determined to lead by example wherever we can in efforts to tackle global challenges. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, there are ongoing significant regional initiatives in this regard. For example, the region has articulated its first Caribbean Community Environment and Natural Resources Policy Framework. This is to be formally launched at the 4th International SIDS Conference scheduled for 27th to the 30th of May 2024 in Antigua and Barbuda. This policy framework, which has been approved by the environment ministers, is designed to serve as the umbrella policy for the sustainable management and use of the community's environmental and natural resources. The framework acknowledges the vital role that land, air, water, and oceans play in sustaining the economic, social, and environmental development of the community. The framework also provides the basis on which a Caribbean community biodiversity strategy aligned to the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework is being finalized for ministerial approval. The strategy will guide our member states and development partners towards harmonized action for the management, conservation, and fair and sustainable use of the region's biodiversity resources. Secondly, the region has been implementing Vision 25 by 2025, our comprehensive strategy to reduce the near US $6 billion food import bill in CARICOM as we focus on building food and nutrition security. The region is taking action to strengthen food production, improve intra-regional trade, and create wealth and economic opportunity within the agricultural sector of every CARICOM member state. Biodiversity is critically integrated into food security through agricultural production, mitigating the negative effects of pollution, increasing crop production, and supporting nutrient cycling. Thirdly, CARICOM has played a very constructive role in the successful completion of the negotiation of the new High Seas Treaty on Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, the BBNJ. The CARICOM grouping negotiated en bloc and led in the negotiations on marine genetic resources and cross-cutting issues. We continue to coordinate as a region as we move to expand signature, ratification, and implementation of the treaty. As we do so, we applaud the government of Belize, which became the first CARICOM country to ratify the BBNJ agreement, setting the pace for wider Caribbean engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, while we are proud of what we have accomplished so far, we remain acutely aware that implementation requires human resources, training and capacity building, research, technology transfer and development, and most importantly, adequate and accessible financing. Partnerships and cooperation remain critical to implementation of the region's policies and programs. In this regard, CARICOM reiterates its appreciation to the European Union, the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States Secretariat, and the United Nations Environmental Program for their support to CARICOM's regional environmental initiatives. We look forward to a continued and expanded partnership. In this regard, I wish to highlight the ACP Multilateral Environmental Agreements Project, funded by the EU and UNEP. This initiative allowed the CARICOM Secretariat to be the coordinator of the Caribbean hub of this project. In fact, the project team collaborated closely with the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity and the government of Guyana to ensure that together we could successfully prepare for and host this week's dialogue. Commitments such as the ACP Multilateral Environmental Agreements Project empower key stakeholders to address environmental challenges and reap the benefits of improved environmental management at the national and regional levels. Given the impact made and the prospects for greater results, it is critical that this work can continue. Ladies and gentlemen, during this week, governments, international organizations, indigenous peoples, local communities, non-government organizations, and other stakeholder groups in the region are all at this table to address our critical challenges. My expectation is that this rich mix of participants, experience, and expertise will yield excellent exchanges while addressing common challenges and proposing solutions. I urge your active engagement as you deliberate on how we can protect and restore nature, prosper with nature, share benefits fairly, invest, and collaborate. I wish you a productive meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary General Dr. Barnett, for your remarks. Now, it is my distinct honor to invite the Honorable Vikram Bharat, who is the Minister of Natural Resources here in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, to provide his keynote address. Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. It actually feels a little strange for me at the podium and at this session this morning. Because I say strange because most of the time I'm speaking on oil and gas. Today I'm not. And I say strange because Camarades and others have gone through the pain of preparing a written speech just so that I don't divert or stray away to oil and gas. So I'll try to stick to my script. Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General, UN Resident Rep, members of the head table, head of the EPA, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, again, good morning. And let me say that I'm happy to be here this morning with you at this very important forum. Many times when we talk about natural resources in Guyana, we only speak about the extraction of natural resources, being gold, diamond, bauxite, now oil and gas. But we understand clearly our responsibility as a country and as a government, that we have the difficult task of balancing the extraction of natural resources with the preservation of our environment, our biodiversity, and our which is our forests. It is not an easy task, but I think Guyana can be used as a model country around the world for creating that balancing act, because we are one of the few countries in the world, even though we're an oil-producing nation, we are still carbon negative. We still have a forest that's the size of the United Kingdom that can drop 19.5 gigaton of carbon. That is almost 95 to 98% virgin standing forests. That is what we boast as a country. So while we are known now for our natural resources, more so oil and gas, we should be known too for our preservation of our forests and our protection of our biodiversity, and also our commitments in the Low Carbon Development Strategy 2030, and our commitment too with regards to the restoration of biodiversity and the expansion of our protected areas. So it is quite an amazing journey, taking into consideration everything that is happening in Guyana. Now, as promised, I'll stick to my script. Otherwise, I may go for my time as well too. So let me say today, I stand here representing Our Excellency President Mohammed Irfan Ali, our Vice President, who holds the portfolio for the environment and climate change at the policy level, and the people of Guyana, to not only welcome you to this conference or this event, but also welcome you to Guyana. And we trust that you will get to see Guyana. We trust that you will get to enjoy Guyana. I know that this is serious business, but when you get some time, ensure that you grab an egg ball and a cane juice. Ensure that if you're a drinker, ensure that you have a shot of El Dorado with coconut water, because we promote local content. By the way, it's the best rum in the world, but I know that the Jamaicans and the Bajans were not like that. Because I heard that, and I've tasted Appleton, I know it's good. I've tasted Mongi, I know it's good. I've tasted Borgo from Suriname, which they said is good too, but the El Dorado is the best. Forgive me for saying that, I'm Guyanese. Again, I extend a warm welcome to you here at the Sub-Regional Dialogue on National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans, and workshop on Target 3 Target 3 of the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework for the Caribbean countries. This gathering represents a pivotal moment in our collective efforts to address the pressing challenges facing biodiversity conservation, with a focus on regional collaboration and action. First and foremost, I would like to extend our deep gratitude to the CBD Secretariat, the Secretary General of the Caribbean Community and her team, for their tireless effort in organizing and hosting these events. And also thank you for choosing Guyana. Their dedication has provided us with a valuable platform for exchanging insights, sharing best practices, and strengthening our collaboration in biodiversity conservation. Despite the importance and value of biodiversity and ecosystem services, Caribbean countries face national and global threats to biodiversity, such as climate and extreme weather, as we are experiencing right now in Guyana and a few other countries, a severe, prolonged spell of dry weather. Also, illegal natural resources extraction and harvesting, and inappropriate land use, which results in biodiversity loss and can affect our achievement of biodiversity conservation goals. Therefore, it is crucial for us as a region to mainstream biodiversity within sectoral, national, and regional plans, as well as national budgeting, accounting, and reporting systems. The Aligned Caribbean Community Biodiversity Strategy serves as the regional framework for assisting CARICOM members in implementing the GBF. It outlines 5 goals and 14 objectives to address biodiversity conservation challenges, each of which addresses critical areas for regional integrated action. To ensure effective implementation, short-term and long-term activities and targets have been identified under each objective, emphasizing research, assessments, conservation efforts, and capacity building initiatives. It promotes the idea that through collective action, we can safeguard the Caribbean's rich biodiversity. For the well-being of current and future generation of CARICOM. These regional actions to support sustainable biodiversity-based sectors, livelihoods, and enterprises, as well as build an enabling environment to manage biodiversity, align with Guyana's national strategy and national efforts I mentioned earlier. It would be remiss of me not to take this and every opportunity to underscore that Guyana remains steadfast in its commitment to preserving its natural heritage. We recognize the importance of preserving our biodiversity for present and future generations, and have taken actions at the national and local levels to protect and conserve this valuable asset, including the development of strategies, policies, plans, programs, and projects for natural resources management. The Low Carbon Development Strategy 2030 prioritizes biodiversity conservation and protection and outlines a development pathway for Guyana that aims to simultaneously progress national, global solution around development, climate change, and ecosystem services while maintaining our commitment to biodiversity-related international agreements, such as the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna, and the protection of the wider Caribbean region, to name a few. The Environmental Protection Agency implementation of projects such as the Amazon Sustainable Landscape Phase 2, mainstreaming biodiversity in mining, and the Global Environment Facility Early Action Support will see Guyana take actions to conserve our biodiversity and ecosystems. The ASL project will strengthen landscape connectivity through improved management of the Kanuku Mountains Protected Area and North Rupununi wetlands in southern Guyana. Interventions for sustainable land and water management will ensure that the KMPA ecological integrity, hydrological connectivity, which is important to fish and other species, and the continued flow of ecosystem services. Interventions will also help to improve planning decisions, preventing habitat fragmentation or hydrological connectivity loss due to productive activities. The MBIM project will strengthen the regulatory framework and institutional capacity for small-scale mining management, as well as promote greater adaptation of environmentally responsible mining techniques in Guyana. To protect global significant biodiversity, reduce mercury contamination, enhance local livelihoods, and improve human health. Under the Global Environment Facility Early Action Support, Guyana is actively pursuing updating our NBSAP to align with global biodiversity targets. Moreover, we embrace the whole of government, the whole of society approach, engaging stakeholders from all sectors to integrate biodiversity conservation into policies and practices. This project is particularly critical because Article 6 of the Convention on Biological Diversity requires each contracting party to develop national strategies for biodiversity conservation and sustainable use, adopt existing plans, and integrate conservation into relevant sectoral and cross-sectoral plans and policies. Therefore, the NBSAP serves as a crucial tool for guiding efforts to conserve and sustainably manage biodiversity, meeting international commitments, and promoting sustainable development. Central to our efforts in Target 3 of the Kunming-Montreal GBF, which calls for conserving at least 30% of the planet's land and sea areas by 2030. The Low Carbon Development Strategy 2030 outlines Guyana's commitment to expand the protected areas initially to 17% and progressively to 30% by 2030, emphasizing both terrestrial and marine protection. And may I add that currently, Guyana protected areas span almost 10% of our land mass, a country that is 83,000 square miles. And our commitment should be noted of 30% by 2030. It is important to note that Target 3 recognizes other land use as contributing to the 30% objective. Guyana is exploring avenues for recognizing other effective conservation measures under our current protected area system through coordination between the Environmental Protection Agency, the Protected Areas Commission, the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, the Guyana Forestry Commission, and several other stakeholders, including our indigenous people and local communities. And for those of you who may not be too familiar, in Guyana we have over 200 indigenous communities, and the population represents 10% of Guyana's total population. Over the next few days, as we embark on discussions, let us also consider the Caribbean biodiversity strategy and how the efforts we are making contribute to our regional objective. These initiatives emphasize the importance of integrated approaches, stakeholders' engagement, and policy coherence in biodiversity conservation. Through collaboration and knowledge sharing or exchange, we can develop holistic strategies to protect the rich biodiversity of our region. Please take full advantage of the opportunities provided to further accelerate national and regional actions to achieve the GBF's goal and targets in alignment with national priorities and capacities. And in the Caribbean, we have a lot to be proud of. We have a lot to boast of as CARICOM. Because today when we speak of conservation, we not only speak of the green economy, but we also speak of the blue economy. And we know that there are some Caribbean islands that has been in the forefront of promoting the blue economy around the world. I've actually attended several conferences where a lot of prominence is being placed now on the blue economy. And I know that some of our Caribbean country and leaders are prominently advocating for recognition of the blue economy at the same time. So this is something else that all of us as CARICOM should be proud of. In closing, I express my gratitude for your dedication to this vital cause. I eagerly anticipate productive discussions and meaningful outcomes that will contribute to the conservation of our precious natural resources and ecosystem. Thank you. Welcome to Guyana.
Thank you very much, Minister Barrett. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we are coming to the close of our opening session. And I just want to remind you that coming out of the various presentations I've heard this morning, there's been a common theme: cooperation and collaboration. That is what is going to be driving this process as we go forward, as we recognize that equally the updates on the NBSAPS, you are expected, and we are expected to collectively provide the requisite updates in preparation for COP16, which will occur during the last quarter, expected to be the last quarter of 2024. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please understand, we're looking to you throughout the period of this week. We're looking to you for decisions which will actually last a lifetime and not die by the lunchtime. We are looking for transformation. We are looking for effort. We're looking for the collective to move forward. And with those few words, I'd like to formally thank Dr. David Cooper, Acting Executive Secretary for the Convention on Biological Diversity, Mr. Gerardo Noto, UNDP Resident Representative and UN Resident Coordinator, Dr. Renata Clark, Sub-Regional Coordinator for the Caribbean for the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, Dr. Carla Barnett, my boss, the Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, and of course, the Honorable Vikram Bharat, who is the Minister of Natural Resources for the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this will bring us to the close of our opening session, but I see from the program that there will be a group photo, and I look for your guidance as to where we should assemble. It will be outside, and I'm sure Tisha, can what? Okay. Okay. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.